Yeah.
Alright. Alright, man. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you coming by and sharing a little bit about your story, man. So, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. My name is Rafael. I'm 21 years old. I've been sober for about 10 and a half months now. I've been involved with the program since I was 19. And I first found myself in a treatment center at 18. Yeah. And
Young.
yeah.
That's good, bro. That's good. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you introducing yourself, and I appreciate you coming to do this with me, man. It means a lot to me. And I've known you for a couple months now. I think about a year already. I think.
It's like been like 2 years, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time goes by fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about how your life looked like before recovery?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, I mean, it's very general. It's what my life looked like before I started seeking recovery, right? I think the key difference is seeking recovery because recovery was always all around me.
Mm.
You know, I always saw people getting better. You know, I knew that something was different with me when I saw that kids my age would go to parties, black out, and be like, "Oh man, that was a rough night of drinking," and then bounce back.
Mm.
Then like go back to school. They were good students. At least it
Right.
would look like on the outside. I knew there was something wrong with me when I just couldn't do that.
Mm.
But I didn't think much of it. And really, what my life looked like is I surrounded myself with the people, and I made a close knit group of friends who were just like me.
Mm.
You know, um, I didn't realize it then. I called them my best friends, but really, we were just addicts.
Mm.
We were just
Yeah.
addicts, and
Yeah.
we know how to tolerate each other's BS, and it was a lot of manipulation. It was a lot of lies. Always full of conflict. There was conflict in every aspect of my life. There was chaos everywhere. Everywhere. I couldn't hold a relationship. And if I did have a relationship, it was a really unhealthy one where we were either both super controlling or my issues, I would hold it over them. I was an incredibly selfish and self-centered person. I hurt a lot of people in my past. I
Mm.
made a lot of decisions based on myself that really harmed and created possibly traumas for people around me.
Right.
That was the thing. I took from so many people. I took from everything. Wherever I was draining energy, time, money, space, wherever I went.
Mm.
I wasn't a pleasant person to be around unless we were doing drugs.
Right.
I found myself, I mean, throughout high school, I was involved with like the party scene. I was the kid that always had drugs
Right.
or always knew the plug or was always close to someone. I thought that was altruistic of me.
Mm.
I thought that I'm giving these kids my age good quality drugs, so that must make me a
Right.
better person.
Right.
Like, no, at the end of the day, I'm still selling coke to high schoolers, man.
Right.
And really, what I felt differentiated me from, you could say, normal kids, because a lot of kids my age or our age at that time, like, partying was the normal thing
Right.
to do, right? If you were popular, you went to parties, stuff like that. Yeah, I would go to high school parties, but I would just go anywhere where there was drugs,
Mm.
anywhere where there was alcohol, anywhere where I could seek some sort of satisfaction, to feel something inside of me. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I
Right.
thought I
Right.
was just having fun,
Mm.
because I mean, as a teenager, I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning more about the world. I'm learning more about how to have my own autonomy. I'm learning about, you know, relationships with people, friendships,
Right. Right.
and I'm developing as a person. But the drugs and alcohol stunted me
Uh huh.
in a way that I didn't understand because I was so in the thick of it, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it, man. It's like we blocked off that prime age of maturing
Hmm.
and emotional intelligence with drugs and alcohol,
Yeah.
right? And so we blocked that off, and now it's like, now we're sober, and it's like, man, how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
How do I deal with these emotions? How do I deal with this fear? How do I deal with all these things?
Hmm.
And luckily now we have tools in order to, to help with that.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to ask you, man, how was your experience in doing the 12 steps? How did that help you?
So in
What was your overall experience with it, right?
so my experience with the 12 steps, you know, um, so it wasn't actually until the second time that I went through and I did the steps
Mm.
where it really hit home for me. So the first time I went through doing the steps, I only did it because I was so afraid.
Right.
Right? I was so full of fear that I didn't want to use. So I did. But the thing is I still justified in holding back. You know, I was just like, I'm only gonna do enough to get me to stop using drugs for a couple of months or something like that. Right? That's sort of what my thought process looked like the first time getting sober. And yeah, it was good, you know, like I said the right things. I learned like some slogans and
Right.
some cool phrases to say to the newcomer and
Right.
stuff like that. Like I learned that stuff. And I know I'm an intelligent person and I know I'm well spoken, so that sort of stuff, that's what I hung on to. That's what I clung on to. Like if I can just look the part,
Right.
I'll be fine, right? And it wasn't long after that where stuff started to get challenging. Um, in sobriety, I still found it difficult to maintain a job. I still find it difficult to um, manage my emotional nature, and like my distress tolerance was completely out of whack.
Right.
And I still felt that there was something wrong with me.
Mm.
And I just didn't know what it was. But deep down, I knew what it was. Deep down, I knew I held back on the steps. I had
Right.
heard all the time that it's like you have to do the steps fearlessly, honestly, and thoroughly for them to actually work.
Right.
And I was like, that's a crock of shit. That's not true because clearly I'm able to get 6 months under my belt half-assing it. So
Right.
clearly this works if I just half-ass it.
Mm.
It didn't last really long. So eventually, I found myself back where doing the things I used to do. And thankfully, I mean, through the grace of God, I made my way back in. And what shocked me was the support and care that was still held for me.
Right. Yep.
Like, I still held a place in people's lives, even after leaving. And that was reassuring.
Yeah.
That was reassuring. And it's only because of the 12 steps. Those people went through the steps themselves. Those people became honest, caring, loving individuals that they were able to share that with me.
Right.
So my first step experience was realizing that it's like this, I can't do this. And people just showed me how to do it.
Right. Right.
And I looked up to that. So the second time coming back in, I just told myself, I'm like, fine, I'm just gonna stick with the people that look like they know what they're doing.
Right.
Like that's all I can do.
Right.
And it was still challenging. There was still a lot of stuff that I had to work through. So I got a new sponsor, and I love my sponsor now. But yeah, I got a new sponsor, and I was like, look, dude, I want to take. I just like there's so much baggage, man. It's just like I I just want to let go of it, man.
Yeah.
And the 12 steps offered me that. For me, there were some points throughout the process where I had felt like a huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders, and
Right.
there were other times where I didn't feel it right away. But that change still gradually came along
Right.
the
Right.
longer I lived the lifestyle that the steps have shown me how to live. You know, for example, one of them is the fact that I'm able to just pause and think and reflect on my nature, reflect on my day, reflect on how I'm interacting with people. That's not something I was able to do when I
Right.
first got sober,
Mm.
right? Everything was about reactions, nothing was about responding. And like the 12 steps brought me closer to something greater than myself that allowed me to do that.
Right.
I mean, people call it whatever they want. I choose to call my higher power God because that's the easiest.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I genuinely started seeking a personal relationship with him that everything just clicked.
Mm.
I wish I could have a novel written.
Right.
I wish I could write a novel just of everything, right, that I've been through and all my personal experiences, but I just can't.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I wish I could write an autobiography on it, but it's just like it's even words won't do it justice,
Yup.
man.
Yup. And it
It's
won't, man. It really won't. Like, I don't know. It's just it's a trip, really, because the moment you start developing that relationship with God and you start becoming aware and you start seeing His hand in
mm,
everywhere, in every aspect of your life, you know. And so, how was it? So since I know you're young, bro, 21 years old.
yeah,
I got sober at 21 too, man. And so how was it? How was that for you? Getting sober, like being sober right now
yeah,
at 21 years old, right? Like, how is it? Because I don't know, you just don't see that too often,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, man. Definitely, there's a lot of gratitude for where I'm at today, but in all honesty, sometimes it is tough to see other kids my age,
Right,
you
right.
know, completely oblivious.
Um,
You know, I can't diagnose them as alcoholics or an addict,
right,
but
yeah.
it's just there's kids my age, you know, that I see that I'm like, you're just like me, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what I am, you know, and it's just like it's kind of heartbreaking.
Right, right.
But my experience with being sober has taught me that it's just like, well, dude, like instead of throwing a pity party for them, you know, it's like I can just help them out whenever they need it,
Mm,
you know.
right.
I can be an example to kids my age. I can be an example that this stuff works if you're really desperate enough.
Mm,
Um, what comes to mind is the first time I was in treatment at like 18. Um, I remember everyone was telling me, everyone said, you know, get a sponsor, start working the steps, you know,
right.
go to sober living, do PHP, IOP, do all the aftercare stuff, the clinical stuff. You know, I said I was going to do all of that stuff, but I didn't,
Mm,
you know, and a lot of that was inspired by the fact that I got a lot of praise, you know, for being in treatment so young. I
right.
was the AA poster child in treatment. It's like, you know, at my age, I would have never admitted myself into
Right,
treatment.
right,
You know,
right.
that's what I heard a lot.
Yeah.
So I rode that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that didn't work. Um, and the more and more times that I found myself in treatment, um, the older and older I saw people like get into treatment. You know, I saw
Right,
older folks in there. I was like, dude, I don't want to be like that.
right,
You
right.
know, no judgment towards them, but that is what hit home for me. You know, I see people finding their way into recovery at such a later point in their life, and everyone's journey is different. But I just couldn't help it but think of the fact it's like, well, if my journey starts now, who am I to say I'm not going to start it now? You
Right,
know,
right.
like, you know how selfish it is of me to be given such a beautiful gift
Mm-hmm.
and tell myself, well, not right now because that guy's doing it at 45, so I'm going to wait till I'm 45.
Right, yo.
You know,
Yo. It's like we always make that exception.
yeah,
You know, it's like, well, I'm not an alcoholic because I'm not that old yet, or I'm not an
mm-hmm,
alcoholic because I'm not living on the streets yet. You know,
yeah,
but it's like it doesn't really discriminate who you are or what
yeah,
age you are, really. You know, But yeah, man. And so you're sponsoring,
Yeah.
right? You sponsored before. So how has that been like? Were you
Um.
sponsoring the first time you guys went?
Yeah. No. The first time I wasn't sponsoring.
Okay, yeah. So
I
how's
mean,
that been, man?
dude, sponsoring is such an amazing part of this program, dude.
Right.
In all honesty, it's tough to find sponsees
Yeah.
being young, because a lot of the guys that I see at treatments and HNIs, they're older gentlemen,
Right. Right. Right.
so they don't want to hear what a 21-year-old has to say, and that's their issue. But I know that I can definitely reach a younger crowd.
Right.
You know, I feel like I have an opportunity to reach a younger crowd of people seeking recovery,
Mm.
and I can just be an example of that. You know,
Right.
I mean, I can say for myself, dude, like when I was in treatment, I didn't see 20-year-olds really coming in doing HNIs and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So like to really grasp and visualize being sober at a young age was like so far
Mm.
away from me when I was first in treatment. But then, as I stuck around and I met other people my age in
Right.
recovery, I realized I was like, okay, these people, there's people like me. There's
Right.
people
Right.
that also want to get sober that are in their 20s.
Right.
And sponsoring is an amazing outlet and opportunity to do that for another person my age.
Mm.
I haven't taken someone through the steps yet. I've had a lot of sponsees that do like the 1, 2, 3
Right.
step
Yeah.
shuffle and then they bounce, or maybe they just do the steps while they're in treatment, you know. So I can't say that I've had a full experience with sponsoring,
Right. Yeah.
but still just getting out of myself and seeking that, even that in itself
Mm.
is rewarding,
Yeah.
because I mean, along the way, I still get a message across to somebody,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, man, it's amazing for not only for the other person but for us as well, right? And I know that when Bill started sponsoring, right, and none of these people were staying sober, but his wife told him, Bill, but you're staying sober,
Mhm.
right? And so like I'm robbing myself out of an opportunity if I don't sponsor,
Mhm.
right? Like not
Yeah, man.
only am I stealing from the program, right, but I'm stealing from myself out of a beautiful experience that I can
Yeah.
have with another person, whether he stays sober or not, man. Like that's if my problem is selfishness and self-centeredness, that is the complete opposite,
Mhm.
right? And so that's a solution right there.
Yeah.
So how long do you have now? Like
10.5 months.
10.5 months? Damn,
Yeah, dude.
almost a year, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm right there, dude.
yeah, bro. So do you want to talk a little bit about, and you can be as honest as you want, man, but do you want to talk a little bit about what your struggle, or let's start with this. How has your relationship with God been like these past
Mhm.
10.5 months?
It's it goes up and down, man.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, dude. It fluctuates, you know. And I know the first couple of months being so scared and being so desperate to just find relief.
Right.
That's all I sought, right? Because that's all that everyone told me to do.
Mm,
I get some of that relief and I slowly start to think, okay, I got this. I become complacent and I start ignoring his grace. I start ignoring his messages. They're still there, but it's just I actively chose to ignore those sorts of things, right?
thank you.
And um, I just I knew what the right answer was. I knew the solution was to seek his grace, seek his answers, seek his will. I
Right.
knew that's what it was. But there was times, honestly, where I knew what the right answer was. I just didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have saved myself a lot of struggles in life if I would have just done the right thing.
Right,
You
right.
know, there's opportunities in my life where I feel like God has placed a sort of tests for me, right? And I just choose to back out completely, or I choose to do the wrong thing, and the wrong thing is almost always a decision based on myself,
Mm-hmm.
all right? But when I do the right thing, You know, when I do what my heart really feels like I need to do after praying and meditating on it and talking about it with people and really trying to get connected and really trying to feel his presence, things are a lot better.
Right.
You know, I can speak from personal experience. A previous relationship of mine, dude, there was, I mean, for the last couple months of it, dude, it was a struggle, you know, and I knew I was struggling. I knew what was happening. I knew that this wasn't good for me.
Right. Right.
And I really did not want to admit to myself what the right thing to do was. I knew the right thing to do was to distance myself from that relationship, dude,
Right.
because
Right.
I would talk about it with everyone. They would say, "You got to leave." I would pray about it. My heart would feel I can't be in this anymore. I would think about it all the time, and I
Right.
just wanted to be rid of that obsession.
Right. Right.
Right? I just wanted to be rid of this problem.
Uh,
The answer was in front of me for so long.
yeah.
I just didn't have the
Right.
courage to do it.
Yeah.
And during that time, I beat myself up for it because I'm like, man, dude, like I know what the right answer is. I know what I need to do. I just don't want to do it.
Mm.
And then eventually things got bad enough where I reached a point where I was like, dude, I have to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to drink again. Otherwise, I'm gonna use again. Otherwise, I'm gonna burn my life down.
Right. Right.
I'm gonna throw everything away. Something as simple as a personal decision in a relationship became this super complicated mess of emotions only because I let it get to that point.
Mm.
And the relationship that I have with God today, you know, um, He was there for me the whole time.
Right.
He never once left me.
Mm.
I know He didn't. And it was that experience for me opened up my opened up something inside of me that made me realize it's like God still has grace for me. God still loves me even when I'm not doing my best.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's a level of reassurance and comfort that I haven't found anywhere else.
Right.
Knowing that I can still, knowing that I have messed up, knowing that I have not done the right thing, that I have done wrong, that I have been selfish, that I have been dishonest. And God still has love for me, and He still has a plan for me, only if I allow Him to work through my life.
Mm.
You know, that's where the relationship really shines, man. That's what love is,
Yeah.
really.
Right.
You know, and
It's
and
infinite love.
I used to seek that in people,
Mm-hmm.
right? I sought that through people for so long, and I mean the answer is right in front of me the whole time. It's like,
Right.
dude, how simple it is to just know. It's like there's a power greater than myself that loves me infinitely and is always going to love me and is always going to want the best for me.
Yeah.
You know, that's when the relationship just changed for me. When I was like, why I don't want to like let him down, so to speak.
Mm.
You know, because if I let him down, I'm only hurting myself. I'm only robbing myself of beautiful opportunities. There was something my sponsor told me one time. He was like, "What do you have to lose?" And I was like, I don't know." And he's like, "Well, all you have to lose is God's plan for you,
Right. Right.
which is infinitely better than anything you could have ever thought up of."
Damn.
And I was like, yeah, wow." You know, like that hit home for me because I was
Yeah.
like, it just put it into perspective. I'm like, dude, there's such better things for me that He has in store
Mm-hmm.
that I could ever come up with.
Yeah.
I just have to follow how He needs me to follow.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Nah, you hit that right on the nail, man. Like, it's always good hearing other people's thoughts and where they're at in their relationship with God. But yeah, you really hit it on the head with that one, man. Like, cause it really, well, you brought up two really good points that I feel like everybody struggles with, right? One is that it's up to us to open that door for God is gonna be there regardless, but I have to make an effort to seek Him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He comes to those who honestly seek Him, like it says in
Yeah.
the book. And then there's the other part where it's like infinite forgiveness and infinite love, right?
Yeah.
And you start to truly feel that, and it reassures me infinitely.
Mm-hmm.
Not like anything else, any materialistic or personal possession or any person or anything that is gonna make me feel like that, right?
Yeah.
And just like you said, right? Like we all struggle with that, where it's like even though we've already felt what God's grace is like, we still kind of seek validation from other
Mm-hmm.
things. You know,
I mean,
we
we're
feel
only
like that's gonna fulfill us.
we're only human,
Right?
you know,
Yeah.
and learning to accept that is a challenge in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, I'm young.
Right.
I have so much more life ahead of me. I know that my life has so much potential, and I don't want to rob myself of that.
Right.
You know, because when I really get down to thinking about it, I'm harming so many more people than I could have ever really imagined in the future. Right. I mean, like, dude, if I don't live a life filled with faith and courage and strength and hope and all these wonderful things, right? If I'm not living a life like that and I don't have much to offer to people, I'm taking from people, right? You know, an example that a good friend of mine told me, you know, it's like, what if you, like, how do I word this? You know, the butterfly effect, right? How it's like, it's not real, but like how a butterfly's wings create a tornado halfway across the world, right? It's like that's what the decisions today impact. You know, the future, but I really have no idea how gravely they can impact people, right? So it's just like, why not just try to make the most of today and make sure that my actions today are helping people now, because I have no idea how it's going to help someone else out in the future.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and not only that, but it's just the right thing to do. It's hard. It was hard for me to really see that, honestly, and it takes practice. Like, it really does take thorough and honest fucking practice, dude. Like, I mean, it's hard sometimes for me to even have patience. So I deal, for my line of work, I deal directly with customers. I deal in a lot of residential work. So, I mean, honestly, there's times where, like, it's a challenge to express patience and kindness and tolerance to people when they're in your face. And like, honestly, I'm not too great at it sometimes. But the fact that I'm able to recognize that and I'm able to reflect on it at the end of my day and be like, okay, I fell short here. I can just do better again tomorrow. You know, and it's just a constant cycle of that. It's just constantly doing that. And the more and more I do it, the more and more I grow. Like, I have no words to, again, like, there's no words that can fully explain, like, what this program has done for me and what getting me closer to a relationship with God, or getting closer in my relationship with God, what that's done for me. Like, there's only really one way to know what I'm talking about, and that's to just do it. You know, like, there's no verbiage that can explain the experience, the spiritual experience that this program offers. I didn't believe in that when I first got into the rooms. Like, it was foreign to me to hear of peace and comfort and serenity. Like, and that's what my life looks like today, dude. Like, I'm able to wake up early and I'm employable. I have a good attitude. I have conversations with friends now. Like, there's people that I talk to on a regular basis who check in with me. I see people at meetings who enjoy my presence and I enjoy theirs. I'm able to offer advice and give advice and take advice. I'm able to really get down with people on an emotional level when they need it. I'm able to be supportive. I'm able to be caring and loving when I have to be. But I also know when not to do those things. I also know like emotional maturity. I know how to navigate conversations now. I know how to express myself. I know how to have the discipline to learn new things, to find new skills. I learned how to have the discipline to apply practically to my daily life.
Right.
And none of that would have been possible without the honesty and the willingness to pursue that relationship with God
Mm.
through the steps,
Yep.
man. It's crazy, dude. Like, I talk about all these good things. It all leads right back to the steps, dude.
Right.
Like, all of it, dude.
Uh-huh.
All of these things, all these beautiful things in my life, they all lead back to the steps, which brought me to God. So in the long run, it's all God, dude.
Right.
Like, there's nothing else
Yep.
to it, dude.
Yep.
And it's cool knowing that, cause I just don't have to worry.
Right.
There's a real level of serenity that I have in my life today that's unmatched to anything I've ever felt before in
Mm.
my life.
Mm. Man, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Really, bro, because, everybody has their own definition of what a spiritual experience looks like for them, right? And I often ask myself, right, have I had a spiritual experience?
Mm.
But it's like, look at how I'm living, right? I can sit down with myself for 20 minutes in complete silence without this
Yeah.
constantly fucking running, you know?
Mm.
And I complain about that I don't have this. I complain that things aren't going my way. But it's like, dude, the only thing that I ever fucking signed up for coming into this program was that I wanted peace. And I
Mm.
have that every fucking day,
Yeah.
And I take it for granted sometimes, right? Because
Yeah.
I forget how I used to live. And to just be able to sit down and not have any negative thoughts running around in my head. I mean, I still do, right? Like, I still
Yeah.
get fearful. I'm a human being, but uh, not to it's not to the extent as it was before,
Mm.
and I live a peaceful life today, and I'm forever grateful for that.
Yeah.
So,
Me
man,
too.
we'll end it at this, man. I just want to ask you one more thing. Is because I know that we hear things all the time. Like, it's almost like every week it's a different thing, and we live by a different quote or saying that we
Yeah.
hear at a fucking meeting or something, right?
Yeah.
And so, what's something that you've been living by lately, or something that's just been glaring at you, right? Or
Mm.
something that you've heard that are aware of it now.
That's good, man. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Shit, dude.
Or something from the past too, man.
Um,
Something that's helped you along in your recovery, right?
Dude, what I told you about my sponsor, what he told me, it's like you're only robbing yourself of God's plan for you.
Mm, right.
That one, that one, fucking just sat in my mind for weeks at a
Right,
time,
right. Yep.
dude. And I don't know why, but
Mm-hmm.
it did, and it helped keep me out of myself.
Right.
It really kind of it was kind of like that first defense that I had against like any decisions that I wanted to make.
Right.
You know, because I mean, dude, this is a daily thing, man. Like I do this every day because I have to. And the decisions that I make, we're human, dude. We're really complicated, and I mean, yeah, dude. You're only robbing yourself of God's will. I mean, God's plan for you when you're doing the things that you want to do.
Mm.
Right.
So good, man. Well, bro, I really appreciate you coming by, man,
Hmm.
and I appreciate you sharing your experience with the steps. Your experience with God, and just a little bit about your story, man. So yeah, I want to thank you, man. And
Yeah, thank you for having me, dude.
yeah, yeah, of course, no problem. Alrighty.